Welcome back to Doing Business in Bentonville. Harvey and I are your hosts for the Warehouse Whisker Warriors, or the W. I always get Harvey smiling when we hear W. Oh, Elaine, thank you. And we are here today to... Oh, Elaine, show us your Warehouse Whisker Warrior. There we go.
My whiskers.
Thank you for participating. And Francesco is here today, and thank God he's got a beard because he's able to participate. If not, if you had shaved yesterday, we probably would have cut you out or found a way to figure out some other relevant startup. But we're not here to talk about your beard today. We are going to talk about Intrepid AI, which is a super cool startup. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about it. However, Elena, you want to introduce us to an icebreaker to get us off to a riveting start today.
A riveting start. We're going to do Mad Libs again.
Oh, God.
Now, I'm going to apologize because this first one is already kind of confusing me. So we're all going to struggle through it together. Francesco, you're going to have to kick us off with a proper noun. Yep. Like a last name.
Oh, yeah. My son's last name is Gadaleta. It's pretty hard to remember and pronounce. I know that.
I'm going to do it phonetically since no one's going to see this. And then Harvey, another proper noun.
Oh, Abraham.
Say it again.
Is Francesco, are you in Belgium?
Yes, in Brussels City, indeed.
And we're going through proper nouns, Elena, in English?
You know what? The next one, I promise, is a little bit easier. Josh, I need a verb with an S on the end.
Runs?
Okay.
How's your morning going, Josh?
All right, Harvey, I'm going to come back to you for another proper noun. Like a company name.
Atlas.
All right. Francesco, a noun. Person, place, or thing, plural.
Wow. Desks.
That was what I was going to say. Desk.
Wow.
He's good.
All right.
What am I thinking now?
Josh,
Yes.
give me a big number.
I thought you were going to ask for an adjective.
Oh, that we knew not to do that.
You asked me not to do that.
6,847.
Did you say 6,647?
I said 6,847.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. All right. And then one more verb.
Who are you asking?
We'll play.
Anyone at this point. Plays.
Play, yeah.
I'm like plug and play. He's good. He's good.
All right, guys. So this is the actual headline. Biden-Harris administration announces preliminary terms with Intel to support investment in U.S. semiconductor technology leadership and create tens of thousands of jobs. We came up with the Gadaleta Abraham administration runs preliminary terms with Atlas to support desks in U.S. semiconductor technology leadership and plays 6,847 jobs.
I'm not going to lie. I like our headline better.
I do too.
It has a ring to it. Yeah, it has a ring to it.
All right. One more, a little bit shorter. Francesco, can I have a color?
Red.
Good one.
Harvey, noun.
Plant.
Josh, verb.
Sleeps.
And Francesco, a year.
1981, of course.
Of course.
All right. So the actual headline is Red Sea cargo diversions could affect 2024 holiday shipping. And we have Red Plant cargo sleeps could affect 1981 holiday shipping.
We did better the first time, I think.
We did better the first time, which I thought was going to be the hard one.
You know, it's really a reflection on the software that you're using or the website that you're using.
It's just me and my brain. That's the software glitch.
Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
All right, Francesco, that was the hard part, I think, right? The easy part is introducing you and your company, Intrepid AI. Give us, the viewers, the listeners, all of the thousands and tens of thousands of people that are going to be watching this podcast, a background on you and your company.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Zero. Well, a bit about my background. I graduated long time ago had a lot of fun doing that in artificial intelligence and robotics from Politecnico di Milano in Italy. I'm original from Italy. Then I relocated to Belgium just for a PhD in computer science, and then after just one couple of years experience in the corporate, I decided to switch to becoming a startupper, how they say. So there was a series of ventures, some quite successful. We got an exit from one, and some other failed, and the last one was is Ametics, which is my current company. So I try to combine, let's say, the insights and the lectures from academia and research to the world of business and the entrepreneurial world via startups as vehicles, of course. And Intrepid is just the latest, is the fourth, in fact, of the startups that I created. And we have been in stealth mode for the last 11 months now, almost 1 year, and came out in January with the promise to revolutionize the way people build robotics application.
And Francesco, for everyone, if you could just describe stealth mode and kind of why. Why do companies prefer to stay quiet for a little bit?
It's a good question. It's I think it's more an historical trend that comes from Silicon Valley, probably. But it's also a very nice way to stay focused on whatever you're building. And so avoiding distractions, avoiding the emails that you might be receiving, questions coming from outside, genuinely people interested in asking you, what is it about, what's the tech stack, and so on and so forth. And the problem of engineers is that they always love to reply to these questions. So they 100% will get distracted if they open the doors. So it's kind of a protection, I would say. At least it works for myself like that.
So you came out of stealth mode in January, but how long had you been working on this prior to announcing what you're working on?
So technically, we've been working for almost 1 year. 3 people, almost full time. Then along the year, there have been more people joining. In fact, the concepts come from way before 12 months, from the past 3-4 years, in which I've been, reconsidering a bit of things when it comes to developing robotics applications and the typical workflows of building applications of this type. But if you ask me, when did you start coding, implementing the actual thing, I would say, the last 11 months.
And because we're building a house, right? We still lay in the foundation. So your previous companies, Amethix, maybe we can focus on what did those companies do? And what were you targeting through those organizations? And then how is that different from what you want to do with Intrepid?
Right. So I have the luck and the privilege to be doing pretty much the same thing for the last 20 years, just in different sectors and with different companies. What Amethix does is providing solutions for, deep tech solutions for clients, operating several sectors. Initially, we were operating in critical domains, healthcare and genetics, so data analytics applied to prediction of certain genetic disorders. And then we switched kind of to the other extreme, which is critical applications in defense and critical systems, still related to data analytics and robotics, of course. Then, of course, when you enter in these domains, there is always these are always multidisciplinary sectors where there is a massive combination of statistics, applied mathematics, data analytics, and what the big public calls artificial intelligence, which is in fact a bunch of applied mathematics algorithms and stuff. And the difference between Intrepid and Amethix is not so much in the tech, but is more in the type of the, let's say, the artifact that we are building. One is a service, Amethyx. The other is a product, Intrepid. And I believe that from an entrepreneurial perspective, there is a massive distinction there.
So tell me about exactly what Intrepid does. Put it into super layman's terms for the folks out there that may or may not be as familiar with AI in the robotic space.
Right. Squeezing the definition of Intrepid in one line, I would say AI-powered all-in-one platform for autonomous robotics. I hope I did a decent job summarizing what such a thing does. For those who are not familiar with robotics and the combination of robotics and AI, is basically, and I say basically, quote unquote, a way to speed up the development of robotics applications. So basically making robotics simpler and democratizing the concept of robotics, which doesn't mean dumbing it down. It means making it more accessible to people who are definitely not technical, but at the same time, to the technical people, making things faster, easier, cheaper, safer, and all the R that you can think of.
And where have you guys gotten your start? Are we in drones? Are we in AMRs, autonomous mobile robots, robotic arms, manipulation?
Yeah, so we currently focus, so we started with aerial robotics, drones, basically, quadcopters and fixed wings. These are the two, let's say, big families of aerial robots. But we also have expanded to ground vehicles. So we have some POCs running for ground vehicles. Not necessarily cars. They can be industrial vehicles, 4 wheels, or little tanks, those kind of things. Usually are vehicles that go to, let's say, hostile environments or environments that have been affected by natural disasters, earthquakes, and those kind of problems. And the combination of the two types of vehicles. So what people call or define as swarm robotics, which is a branch of collective intelligence for robotics. It's essentially the, let's say, coordination of heterogeneous vehicles participating to the same mission where there is an objective, a common objective to reach. And that's something extremely fascinating that is only now taking, let's say, seeing kind of the light out of the tunnel from agriculture technology, for example, where more and more heterogeneous vehicles are, in fact, coordinating towards one goal, which could be seeding, planting, or detecting bugs, or all of the above.
So, again, for me, who this is a newer space, you're not building a robot. You are building products to make the robots more efficient, right? You are building products to help the robots streamline their services. Is that super layman's terms?
Yes, indeed. We are not building the actual robot, even though I have in front of me a prototype of a tank, which I could show if you want.
A tank?
It's a little tank. It's you want me to take?
Or you got to see the tank.
It's just one of these prototypes that we build to
show and tell. Harvey, I like that today.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's like a little an expensive toy. But we do not build the actual vehicle. Of course, we build some prototypes once in a while to, test the stack and have kind of the feeling of the software being deployed to a physical vehicle and architecture. But it's not necessary for us to build the physical robot. That's where actually the partnerships that we are closing with robotics manufacturers are helping, because we don't want to. First of all, it's not a matter of competition. It's just that we don't have the enough expertise to build actual robotics. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then in the market, kind of, what's your perspective been so far in commercial adoption, right? And whether it's making more progress at the SME level, maybe it's the enterprise level. Like, who's buying these solutions today? And then what do you think the next few years looks like?
So before going to the next years, I want to make a statement here, which is the way robotics is being built for the last 15 years, in fact, hasn't changed that much. And I'm saying this because I've been in that space for long enough to see what happened in the years. Very slightly changes have happened to the typical workflows of building a robotics application, which is a shame because, the world is moving at a much faster pace than before. The integration of technologies today is much more prominent than a few years ago. And there is more and more the combination of technologies that were not supposed to be, or we did not think they could have actually fit in the same picture just a few years ago. Now, GPT family of models, we all know it's kind of the big thing now. But if you asked the typical data scientist 5 years ago if there would have been a combination of these technologies in the sectors that we are seeing today, they would have never guessed. And this is happening in robotics today. Now, when it comes to who is going to buy a platform to build robotics applications today, I would say that robotics is definitely a field that is growing, but it's also changing as it grows, so that there is no real reference when it comes to robotics. I've seen personally a lot of misunderstanding about, when you mention the word robot, people think the typical humanoid that dances on a stage, which is definitely not what we mean by robotics. Killer robots, that's kind of the marketing aspect that want to traumatize people. That's also not robotics. Or otherwise is industrial robotics, which is probably as old as myself. And the number I mentioned before, 1981, is indeed a long time ago. Now, industrial robotics is a different beast because it deals with structured environments in which things cannot really go that wrong, if you think. The robotics that we are used to speak about today is the robotics that want to deal with accidents, weather conditions, or wind. So imagine drones if it's being in a thunderstorm, mud. Think about agricultural technology. These are the typical scenarios where people are thinking of, where can I place my robot in the next few years? So the type of client that might be interested in purchasing or interested in a platform to build robotics application, in fact, goes across sectors. Now, we at Intrepid, we are focusing on one particular sector, of course, like agricultural technology and infrastructure maintenance. But there's a plethora of sectors where, these same scenarios are kind of basic blocks that you keep seeing. They're kind of invariants across sectors. So think about patrolling use cases, source localization, search and rescue scenarios, swarm robotics, which was an academic field until a few years ago, and now it's a lot more used, for example, for entertainment. I don't know if you have seen this light or fireworks. Yeah, modern fireworks.
Yeah, a concert, the Super Bowl, drones in the sky.
Exactly. And I think that we're going to see more and more of these things because the algorithms and the way the coordination algorithms, of course, are getting more and more mature. People are getting more and more knowledgeable about how to build these things. The problem is that I personally believe, and that's the reason why I started Intrepid, is that people are not familiar with the fact that they can speed up the development of robotics applications orders of magnitude with respect to what they could do a few years before.
Francesco, so if you had your ideal industry client user base, if you could say these are the top 5 types of individuals and companies I'd be wanting to just reach out to or have utilize and pilot my platform, give me some examples of that.
Well, definitely. In the sector first, I would think of agriculture technologies, the most fascinating one to me personally, for several reasons. Open challenges are incredible for an engineer. Also, the fact that what you build in agriculture technology can actually be "quote unquote" reused as a basic skill anywhere else in all other critical environments when it comes to conditions, environmental conditions. In terms of roles in a company I would be speaking with is definitely product owners, and we are very technical team, so we also like to show the capabilities of the platform, for example, to the engineers, how much time they can save with or without Intrepid. On a typical project, like we have a few of these, scenarios that we consider kind of a KPI for us to show, first of all, to measure, and then to show how much time and how many robotics less you need to build a use case that is, for example, 3, 4, 5 times safer than before.
So time savings and financial efficiencies are the win on the back end?
Absolutely. There is a very tiny fraction of robotics projects that actually see the light within the budget and within the time constraint. A very limited fraction. And I mean, our bet, of course, is to not even double that, like to multiply that by X, because operating on the workflows, what we call the critical path of application development, will change the rules of the game. And we have seen this happening for software, and I don't see why this should not be happening for robotics, which is in fact software with wheels.
And then how do you guys think about the business case right now, right? Like, how do you help your customer calculate the ROI? Like, how do we kind of bridge that gap? Because in the conversations that we have, at least on the client side of our business, that seems to be one of the biggest hangups before we get to a broader adoption. Sure, people are happy to pilot and run POCs and test things out. But then when it comes time to calculate the business case, things either slow down to a crawl or they get scrapped. So how are you guys thinking about that? Are you guys thinking about that right now? And maybe that's not a key focus for you at the moment with where the industry is, but just I'd love your thoughts.
Sure. So indeed, we are not currently interested in ARR and all these micro metrics that companies usually observe, especially when they're navigating into deep waters. We are much more interested, of course, in building the tech at this point in time. But of course, there is a mantra that we have when we talk to potential partners and potential customers, which is design, simulate, and deploy should be under the same umbrella. This is something that is not happening in robotics and the development of robotics applications. When you have, these are 3 kind of pillars that are kind of, independent from each other, while they should not. So when you put design, simulation, and deployment under the same platform, and that's why the only one platform in the tagline of Intrepid AI. When you put these things under the same platform, you're basically demolishing the time to market for any application that you build on that platform. I mean, that's undeniable, because the 3 things are beating the so-called tool fragmentation. In robotics, this is exceptionally high. I've seen many robotics teams to deal with integration issues because they use fragmented tools. There are a lot of tools for designing, for simulation, and for deployment. There are a lot of tools. The problem is combining them and integrating them under the same project. So integration issues sometimes make the project more expensive than the project itself, which is non-acceptable from a business perspective. So that's the first thing that we try to convince the potential clients, like, We put these three things together, which means that the average roboticist doesn't have to switch tool. So you open the dashboard, we have a dashboard, we have a simulator, and we have a deploying stack. You stay in that platform from beginning to end. So that's the first thing. The second thing is collaboration with designers, engineers, marketing teams, supplier, customers, other stakeholders. Robotics teams are very heterogeneous. And we have seen that people hardly talk to each other during, the design of the capability, the simulation of that same capability, and the deployment phase. So there is a lot of separation of concern, if I can say, due to the fact that the typical team is very heterogeneous. People with very different backgrounds. There is mechatronics, electronics, software engineering, coding, marketing. There is all there. And so collaboration tools pretty much do not exist, if not on a code level, which is like the typical, the usual suspects there, like GitHub, GitLab, whatever, but it's specific software. So we have redesigned that part, re-engineered the collaboration layer, because we strongly believe that in a team of heterogeneous people, very different backgrounds, you have to reinforce the concept of collaboration. And the last thing, very important, is the aspect of reproducibility and safety. So reproducibility basically is when you have multiple people collaborating to the same project, they will start changing things because they need to improve, because they need to fix some stuff that someone else built. So these pipelines start growing exponentially. The more interaction, the more people you throw to the problem. The mythical Mad Month said exactly that. The more people you throw to the problem, the slower the project. That's a very nice book from the 70s, if I'm not wrong. And that's exactly what happens in robotics. Like, many clients of us believe that the more workforce, the better and the faster. It's definitely not. Actually, the slower. Why? Because they're lacking collaboration tools. So reproducibility, we have learned the lesson the hard way from data science and data analytics pipelines, where you change the data and you have to propagate these changes down the pipeline until the model prediction. We've seen this happening, model statistical shift when data keeps changing and you have built your model once, maybe several months ago, then the population dynamics changes and that model is no longer valid. You cannot reproduce whatever you found 3 months ago. This in robotics happens on a daily basis. And definitely you don't want to put in the field a robot that you cannot reproduce the behavior because that would be extremely, unsafe, to say, in the best case scenario, or completely destructive even for your business and the people around, because these robots are supposed to collaborate with humans at some point.
Francesco, do you have any competitors or are you unique in this white space? And if there are competitors, which of course we wouldn't want to name here, what is the unique proposition or what is the reason for someone choosing you and Intrepid AI?
So yes, there are competitors. No names, of course, but the biggest, let's say, let me put it like this: the closest competitor to what we are building is a competitor who is also building the concept of, for example, visual programming and this editor that we have that allows you to mix and match basic skills and build behaviors for a robot, more and more complex behaviors. So that concept, in fact, it has been explored by others. Let me put it like that, which is it's normal because it's a concept that works, it's powerful, and I don't see why people should not take advantage of it. We know that even in video game development, in that community, they are using similar concept. Unreal Engine Blueprints, for example, is doing that for several years now. The biggest limitation that I personally see in the competitors that we have is in the fact that they are kind of marrying a particular technology In particular, in robotics, there is one kind of de facto standard, which is called ROS, stands for Robotic Operating System, built by Open Robotics. It's a 15, almost 20-year-old project, very much used in academia, much less used in commercial environments. And we have seen that some of these competitors are actually, supporting ROS, and that's it, which in our opinion, it's a big limitation, because when you tackle with, for example, limited hardware, that is robots, nano drones, or robots that don't have the possibility to carry a companion computer or, sophisticated hardware for payload limitations or battery lifetime, for example. Well, all these cases, in these cases, of course, you cannot consider a ROS-like technology. So that's why we have pushed the gas on one very important aspect, which is efficiency and optimization. So we run natively on the operating system, or even on bare metal if needed, which our competitors do not do. And so they usually use Dockerization, use ROS technology, which are known to be very heavy from a computational perspective. Another one is probably dealing with, very similar idea on, at least on the design of the capability, again, the visual programming aspect, but they specifically focus on manipulator arms, which we do not. So by choice, we want to stay away from that because there are different dynamics there. And for the time being, we want to stay fully focused on aerial robotics and mobile robotics.
A lot of the folks that might listen to this work for a parent corporation headquartered in Europe, at least in the supplier community. So what's your view on the state of robotics in Europe versus the state of robotics in the US? It could be academic, it could be commercial, it could be either breadth or depth. Kind of what's been your experience?
I will make a few people sad about what I'm saying, but I can say that because I'm a European, so I can criticize Europe if I'm eligible to criticize Europe. Jokes apart, when it comes to deep tech, Europe seems to be a bit slow, if I can say that, and robotics is, of course, no exception. I've experienced this already a few years ago with deep tech applied to data analytics. We were building actually chatbots for banks in 2017, when ChatGPT was not even a name on Wikipedia or wherever. So very pioneering stuff. And in Europe, we had zero success, in fact. So people could not understand. And I have to admit that this is a very similar scenario in robotics, unfortunately. In terms of research and development, yes, there is a quite strong academic community with whom, of course, we have partnered, for example, in the region of, in the Netherlands region, so Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. In English is Free University of Amsterdam. And so we are collaborating with them. We have this partnership that is basically allowing them to use the platform for internal research project, especially with swarm robotics. And we, of course, get interesting feedback from very advanced users, because these are researchers. These people help you out prioritizing, for example, the next big feature or the next most essential feature that you need. So that's a very, very interesting collaboration. We are very close to secure another partnership with a Belgian university, also very strong. I don't make names, but people who know Belgium know probably what I'm talking about. And that's also something that will be in the mid-term very fruitful for a company like Intrepid. We are a deep tech, so we have to live between the commercial aspect of robotics, and of course the research and development aspect of it. And Europe is probably giving us a hand on the research part and not so much on the commercial aspect. So probably it will be time to look, overseas.
Francesco, last question I have for you. You just came out of stealth mode, and I love that terminology, just recently. So newer to the marketplace, what do you see team dynamics, staffing, 12 to 18 months from now? Like, where do you see yourself going as this thing gets more and more traction?
So from an Intrepid perspective, in the team at Intrepid, so we are already at full bandwidth, so I don't want to wait too long to expand the team. Of course, we are also in fundraise mode, so I strongly believe that will speed up and will eliminate the lack of bandwidth that we currently are approaching, and that's quite normal because we have been growing relatively fast internally. I know that these are very small numbers, but being in stealth mode means that nobody knows what you're doing. It's just you and your partner. And all of a sudden you have like 6 and 8 people joining, and because they love the project, they feel the challenge as much as we do, or we did 11 months ago, and they want to jump on the train immediately. And the problem there is to, not to become a people manager, right? Because we still want to build tech. Actually, we just started building the tech. How do I see the company in the next few months? In fact, is basically approaching 12 people. That's kind of our plateau for very technical people on the team to extend the bandwidth on the development of several aspects of the platform. We have in fact 3 modules that have to go in parallel, which is the dashboard, which is the front end, the visual programming tool. There is the back end, or the engine, that is a beautiful piece of code in Rust. So we are almost 100% Rust-based company. Rust is the safest language that you can think of today, safest programming language. And then we have, of course, the simulator, which is another beautiful piece of software that inherits a lot of the concepts from video game development. And we have former video game developers in the team and also gamers. So myself included, I have to say that. So these people, of course, are almost at full bandwidth, but we are in an advantageous position, which is these 3 things can actually go in parallel. And so that's why I'm not saying that each module will walk on their own legs, but almost. So there are, from an engineering perspective, we call them contracts to respect between one module and the other. And then the team can, let's say, expand pretty fast without too much human intervention or manager intervention. So that's a good thing. That's where I see myself in the next 12 months.
So now I did say it's the last question, but as Harvey knows, that's the last question for you that I have. But I always like to ask Harvey, from the outside looking in, and plug and play lens, what is your view on this segment? From a plug and play from an investment side, from a technology side, where is this going, and how do you see this playing out from your lens?
And I'm going to answer that with another question. But I think what I would love to see, and what I love that Francesco is working on, we need to figure out as an industry how to get past the adoption blocker that is kind of the valley of death equivalent in robotics on the enterprise side or on the commercial side, when you jump from a pilot to a broader adoption inside the organization, inside live production environments. I think that has been the biggest hang up for the past few years. And what Francesco's working on is very pure in its mission of trying to speed up and make it more accessible and easy for people to become familiar and to ultimately start working with robotics inside of their domain. And of course, logistics is our domain and the broader supply chain. So everything that Francesco is working on, I think, is helping kind of chip away at the old block of how do we speed up the adoption here. across a variety of use cases. You're working on drones. A lot of people are working on doing cycle counting using drones in the warehouse. Some people have found success. Other people have not, but we're continuing to chip away at it and trying to make sure that ultimately we will have autonomous or semi-autonomous machines doing a lot of the work in the logistics environment going forward. So big fan, obviously. Francesco, thanks for spending some time with us. The question that I want to pose back to you before we wrap up is, how can people get in touch, right? And kind of how can people interact with you? I know you're going to start onboarding clients pretty soon. Is there a demo that you can walk people through so they can see it? Can they interact with it? How do we go from this podcast to hopefully lining up some conversations for Intrepid?
Sure. Well, first of all, we have a website, Intrepid AI. On the website, we also maintain a newsletter/blog where we actually announce all the latest things. We are part of the NVIDIA Inception program very recently. So kudos to the guys who made that happen.
Congrats.
Thank you. We have a lot of credits to spend in GPUs now, so and we need it. So on that space, of course, people can read about the latest news, whatever is happening, and the features that we release on a weekly basis. We have a Discord channel, all on the website, of course. It's free to join. There is, of course, a public channel where we welcome roboticists, our non-robotics expert, pretty much welcome to come and ask and speak with the rest of the team. They are amazing guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to see where you're going and appreciate your time and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Great job.